The night air was heavy with smoke and the distant echo of artillery fire. In the ruins of what had once been a thriving city, a crowd had gathered in the central square. Soldiers, ragged but disciplined, formed an uneasy perimeter, while civilians clutched one another, their faces pale with fear. The humans whispered among themselves, casting furtive glances at the shadows beyond the shattered buildings. Somewhere in those shadows, something waited. A faint hum broke the tension, a mechanical vibration that grew steadily louder. The crowd froze as a figure emerged from the darkness, a predator. Its armor glinted under the fractured light of broken street lamps, its blade sheathed at its side. The alien scanned the humans with multiple layers of vision, eyes flickering through infrared, ultraviolet, and motion detection. It cataloged them all: the soldiers, the frightened men, even the civilians who had not yet fled. Captain Elias Kane stepped forward from the edge of the formation. A man in his mid-30s, his uniform was scorched and torn from previous skirmishes, his face lined with scars that spoke of battles survived. He carried no weapon in his hands, only a calm, measured resolve. The soldiers instinctively tightened their grips on their rifles, but Kane held his ground. He had faced death before, and tonight was no different, only stranger. The predator paused, tilting its head. It expected them to scatter, to cower, to make itself the dominant presence by fear alone. But these humans did not. Some trembled, yes, but most stood firm, staring back. Kane's eyes met the predator's, unwavering, and in that brief connection, the alien sensed something it had not anticipated: defiance, strength, and a peculiar kind of courage. Slowly, the predator drew its blade, the steel gleaming ominously. The motion was precise, deliberate, designed to intimidate, to test the readiness of its quarry. Soldiers adjusted their stances, hands tightening around triggers, but Kane made no sudden move. He did not flinch. He simply assessed the alien, weighing its intentions, daring it to make a choice. For a moment, time seemed suspended. The predator's scan continued, taking in the subtle cues of human physiology: the racing heartbeats, the controlled breathing, the absence of fear pheromones in Kane. The alien's instincts, honed across countless hunts of beasts and warriors alike, hesitated. This was not prey. This was something else. Something unpredictable. A murmur ran through the crowd, but Kane raised a hand to silence it. His voice, calm and steady, reached the humans nearest to him. "Stand your ground," he said. "Do not run. Do not falter. Let it see us as we are." The predator's blade hovered in the air, reflecting the fractured light of the square. Its gaze flicked from Kane to the soldiers, then to the civilians and back. The alien's mind, if such a thing could be said of a predator, weighed the variables. It had hunted alone before, it had faced cunning and ferocity in other species. But never had it encountered a group that moved with unity, guided by one man's unwavering will. Kane took a deliberate step forward. The ground beneath him crunched with debris, but he did not waver. He had faced the worst humanity could offer, and survived. This alien, whatever its purpose, would not find them broken by fear. The soldiers followed, matching his calm, a collective shield of defiance. The predator's instincts screamed at it to strike, to test the strength of this species. Its vision flickered, analyzing, calculating, seeking weaknesses that were not there. The humans did not behave like prey. They were not weak. And yet they were different. Fragile, yes, in form, but unyielding in spirit. Then, as abruptly as it had drawn the blade, the predator paused. Its head tilted, an almost imperceptible acknowledgement of the anomaly before it. The alien stepped back, creating a measured distance. Not retreating, but reassessing. Kane's chest rose and fell evenly. He held his position, unshaken by the deliberate, silent evaluation of the predator. A tense quiet fell over the square, broken only by the distant sounds of war beyond the ruins. The humans had survived the first judgment, and the alien had taken its first measure of them. In that suspended moment, the rules of predator and prey shifted, blurred by a single, unyielding truth: these humans were not afraid, and that alone was remarkable. Cain did not lower his eyes. He did not smile or mock. He simply waited, confident in the knowledge that courage could speak louder than weapons, and that unity could defy even the most fearsome of hunters. The predator remained motionless, scanning, calculating, and then, with an almost imperceptible inclination of its head, it withdrew slightly into the shadows. For now, the confrontation was over. But both predator and human knew this encounter had changed something fundamental. The humans had survived, and the predator had recognized a potential challenge unlike any it had faced before. The night still held danger, but the first act had ended. Cain's gaze followed the alien as it disappeared into the darkness, and a thought echoed in his mind. This is only the beginning. The night stretched on, heavy and silent, as the ruins of the city seemed to hold their breath. Captain Elias Cain crouched atop a crumbling wall, surveying the perimeter. His squad remained in tight formation, shadows among shadows, rifles at the ready but fingers relaxed enough to avoid shaking. The predator had vanished, but the memory of its gaze lingered, cold, precise, and curiously assessing. Cain knew this was no ordinary hunt. He spoke softly, so only the closest men could hear. It wasn't looking to kill. Not yet. It was sizing us up. Learning. That's what makes this different. This is a test, not an attack. His words carried authority, but there was a weight behind them, a subtle acknowledgement that humans were fragile. Yet Cain's confidence never faltered. The squad shifted uneasily, whispers of fear brushing against the edges of their discipline. One of the younger soldiers, Private Hayes, broke the silence. "Sir, what if it comes back? We're not ready for that." Cain's eyes, dark and steady, found the boys. "We are ready. That's the difference. It's not the strongest who survive, it's those who refuse to yield. Tonight, we stand together. That is enough." Cain's words were more than reassurance. They were a declaration. Every soldier felt the shift in resolve, the quiet understanding that fear would not dictate their actions. The predator had seen it too. That defiance, that unshakable courage, was alien to its experience. Across galaxies, it had hunted creatures that either fled or fought blindly. Humans were different. They thought, they adapted, they chose their battles. And then Cain stepped out into the open. No weapon, no armor beyond what was standard military issue, just a man and his resolve. The night wind tugged at his jacket, revealing the scars along his arms, remnants of skirmishes past. He stared into the shadows where the predator had disappeared, unflinching, a silent challenge cast in every line of his posture. The alien reappeared, this time moving with deliberate caution. It did not strike immediately, nor did it approach with reckless aggression. Instead, it hovered at the edge of the light, blade sheathed, observing. Its scanning vision flickered between spectrums, analyzing the humans with surgical precision. And yet, Cain remained unmoved, unwavering under the alien's scrutiny. "You're curious," Cain said, voice low but firm. "I know you are. You don't strike me because you're assessing, weighing the worth of what stands before you. Let me tell you something, you've never faced humans like us. We don't yield. We don't break. And we don't run." For the first time, the predator hesitated. It tilted its head, scanning Cain from head to toe, reading every micro-expression, every subtle gesture. In its memory banks were thousands of hunts, xenomorphs, Yautja warriors, even sentient prey that had outwitted it. Yet none had displayed the controlled defiance Cain embodied. None had held the weight of a group's courage in a single frame of mind. The soldiers followed Cain's lead, stepping into the light in formation, rifles lowered but at the ready. The civilians, emboldened by the captain's stance, moved behind the soldiers, forming an unspoken shield. The predator noted the unity, the cohesion, the way Cain's presence amplified the humans' collective resolve. Its instinct screamed at it. This was not prey. This was a new kind of challenge, something dangerous because it was intelligent because it would not bend. Cain continued, his voice steady, almost conversational despite the life-and-death tension. We're not here to provoke you. We don't want to fight. Not unless you force our hand. But understand this, we will not cower. We will not beg. And if you think you can intimidate us into submission, you'll be sorely disappointed. The predator's senses adjusted, scanning for any sign of weakness. Heart rates, respiration, subtle twitches, all indicators of fear. But the readings were abnormal. Kane's heartbeat was steady, controlled, his muscles relaxed yet ready. His squad mirrored him. The alien could detect no fear in this group. Only readiness. Only determination. Only the quiet, relentless courage that made humanity worth noting. Then, in a gesture that surprised even its own kind, the predator backed away slightly, sheathing its blade fully. It did not flee. It was still in command of the encounter, but it was reassessing, recalibrating its approach. Kane, recognizing the subtle shift, did not advance, did not celebrate. He simply held his ground, eyes tracking the alien's every motion. "You understand," Kane said quietly, almost to himself, "that strength is more than muscle and weaponry. It's in standing when the odds are against you. It's in holding together when chaos surrounds you. That is human strength. That is what you cannot measure with scans and blades." The predator's attention lingered, as though digesting his words. For a creature whose life revolved around hunting, this human, unarmed and exposed, had presented an anomaly. The alien's memory banks logged the event meticulously, marking Kane and his squad as different. Not prey. Potential rivals. Potentially worthy. A distant sound of artillery reminded the humans that the city itself was still at war, but it no longer seemed to matter. In that moment, predator and human faced each other across the rubble-strewn square, two species measuring one another not by bloodlust or instinct alone, but by courage, leadership, and the quiet fire of unyielding spirit. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the predator inclined its head subtly and retreated into the shadows, leaving the humans in the cold, smoky night. Kane lowered his gaze for a brief moment, acknowledging the silent acknowledgement. The alien had not attacked, it had recognized. And in that recognition lay both a warning and a promise. The encounter was not over. Kane turned back to his squad, voice calm but edged with anticipation. "Remember this night. Remember who we are. They will come again, but when they do, we will be ready. Not because we are stronger, but because we refuse to yield." The men nodded, absorbing his words. They had witnessed something that transcended the ordinary horrors of war. They had seen an apex hunter hesitate before humanity's courage. And though the night remained dangerous, there was a spark of pride, a recognition that they had faced the unknown and survived, not by luck, but by defiance and unity. The predator moved silently through the night, its footsteps absorbed by the rubble-strewn streets. The city lay in muted shadows, the distant echoes of gunfire a constant reminder that humanity's world was fragile, chaotic, but alive. Within the alien's mind, the encounter with Captain Kane and his squad replayed repeatedly, each iteration revealing new anomalies. Their courage, their cohesion, their refusal to submit. It was unlike anything the predator had ever catalogued. Back in the safety of its temporary observation post, the hunter accessed its records, scanning the footage captured during the encounter. The human's heart rates, breathing patterns, postural confidence. All data points converged into a single conclusion. These creatures were not simply prey. They were unpredictable, adaptable, dangerous in ways that muscle and weaponry could not fully convey. The predator's instincts, honed over centuries of hunting, churned with conflicted calculations. Elias Kane, the unarmed human who had stood defiant in the open square, occupied the predator's attention most of all. It analyzed his movements, his words, the subtle way he commanded the soldiers without a raised voice or a gesture of aggression. Kane exuded a kind of leadership that demanded recognition, a rare trait that could not be quantified by infrared scans or blood pheromone readings. This human was a challenge, not to be destroyed, but to be measured, understood, and perhaps respected. The predators clan back on distant worlds would have laughed at the idea of hesitation, at the notion of leaving potential prey alive. Yet here, on this blue planet, instincts warred with fascination. Humanity's strength lay not in brute force, but in something the predator recognized as the spark of warrior spirit, the refusal to yield, even when the odds were overwhelmingly against them. Hours passed, and the alien returned to the streets, slipping between shadows with the precision of a predator hunting, not for immediate kill, but for understanding. Kane's squad remained vigilant, stationed along the remnants of barricades and walls, scanning the darkness for any sign of the alien's return. The city was quiet now, except for the occasional groan of twisted metal settling under its own weight. Kane sensed movement before his men did. A faint shimmer in the darkness, a distortion that was impossible to mistake. The predator had returned, not with the intent to strike recklessly, but to test further, to gauge the measure of these humans without unnecessary bloodshed. Kane did not speak. He remained still, exuding calm confidence, signaling to his squad that patience and restraint were the weapons of this moment. The alien stepped into the faint moonlight, its blades still sheathed. Its eyes, flickering through multiple spectrums, lingered on Kane. There was no malice, no immediate intent to kill, only recognition. A silent acknowledgement that the human before it had passed a threshold the predator had not expected to exist in such a fragile species. Kane met its gaze without hesitation, shoulders squared, eyes steady. "You could strike," Kane said quietly, his voice carrying over the small distance between them. "You could test us, kill us, and leave nothing but ruin behind. But you won't. Not yet. You see something in us you do not understand, and that is wise." The predator's skin flickered again, analyzing his physiology, his stance, the collective readiness of his squad in the shadows. It detected no deceit, no bluff. Only truth. Only unwavering human resolve. Slowly, it lowered its head in what might be described as a gesture of acknowledgement, a nod without words, a recognition of worthiness. Kane understood instinctively. He did not reach for a weapon, nor did he relax. Instead, he allowed the alien to observe, to make its silent judgments, without interference. His stance was unyielding, his expression neutral, but every fiber of his being communicated the same message his words could not. Humans will stand, even when faced with creatures they cannot hope to overpower. The predator circled once, deliberately, studying the group as a whole. The soldiers, positioned with Kane at the center, were a unit not defined by firepower alone but by cohesion, by the unspoken trust they placed in their captain. This unity, this collective courage, confounded the alien's expectations. In its experience, prey either fled, fought individually, or panicked. These humans, this one man and his squad, demonstrated a form of resilience that rivaled the most disciplined hunters the predator had faced. Finally, the alien paused, and in a deliberate, almost ceremonial motion, it placed its blade on the ground between itself and Kane. It did not threaten. It did not demand. It presented the weapon as a symbol, a challenge, and a test all at once. Kane studied the blade, noting its craftsmanship, its lethal simplicity. He did not reach for it, did not react with aggression. Instead, he inclined his head slightly, acknowledging the gesture in silence. The predator's sensors registered this non-response, cataloging it as significant. The human had passed another threshold, proving control not by the wielding of weapons, but by the mastery of fear, the command of composure. For the first time, the alien felt the stirrings of respect, a foreign sensation it had rarely experienced outside the confines of its own kind. The night air carried the faint hum of distant engines, reminders of the war that still raged beyond the city's broken walls. Yet in this small square, amid the ruins and shadows, predator and human stood in mutual understanding. No words were exchanged beyond Kane's earlier remark. None were necessary. Both species understood the rules of this encounter had changed. The predator's judgment had been made, not through bloodshed, but through observation, measurement, and acknowledgement. Without another sound, the alien withdrew, stepping back into the darkness from which it had come. Kane remained in place, chest rising and falling evenly, aware that this was not an end but a pause. The predator had not attacked, it had tested, measured, and recognized. The night would not remain quiet forever, but humanity had survived another encounter, and the bond of respect, tenuous but undeniable, had been forged between hunter and human. Cain lowered his gaze for a moment, eyes scanning the shadows where the predator had vanished. His voice, soft but firm, reached his squad. "Remember what you've seen tonight. Courage is more than instinct. It's the choice to stand when the odds are against you. They will return, and when they do, we will be ready. Not because we are stronger, but because we refuse to yield." The men nodded silently, their resolve solidified. They had faced an apex hunter, and through discipline, courage, and unity, they had survived. In that quiet, rubble-strewn city, they understood the truth of humanity's resilience. It was not in strength alone, but in spirit, in defiance, and in the will to endure against the impossible. Dawn crept over the shattered city, painting the ruins in muted golds and grays. Captain Elias Cain and his squad remained vigilant, though the night's tension had softened into wary alertness. The predator had vanished, leaving only shadows and memory, but the encounter lingered in every line of their faces. They had survived an apex hunter, not through brute force, but through courage, composure, and unity. Far above, the predator's ship cut silently through the clouds. Inside, the hunter reported the events to its clan, the voice translated roughly through its biocoms. "They are not weak. They do not yield. They resist as one. Captain Cain, they are worthy." The elders on the viewing deck responded with skepticism, their jagged visages marked by centuries of hunting the galaxy's most dangerous prey. "Worthy," one elder hissed, claws tapping the console. "These humans are fragile. Their bodies break easily. Their defenses are primitive. You call them worthy?" The hunter's growl reverberated through the chamber. "Do you not see? They are dangerous because they fight as one. They do not flee. They do not panic. They stand even when faced with extinction. That is strength beyond weapon or armor. That is warrior spirit." The elders murmured among themselves, unwilling to fully accept the hunter's assessment. Humanity was too small, too frail, yet the hunter insisted, replaying the recordings, highlighting Cain's unflinching stare, the soldier's coordinated stance, the civilian's courage in the shadows. The data was irrefutable. The humans had faced a predator without breaking, and they had survived. Meanwhile, on the ground, Cain led his men through the ruins, checking barricades and tending to the wounded. His face, though weary, carried a rare clarity born from triumph tempered with understanding. "They will come again," he said quietly to his squad, "but not just as hunters. They will watch, learn, and adapt. And we must do the same. Every battle we've fought, every scar we carry, prepares us for this moment." Private Hayes, still pale but emboldened by the night's encounter, nodded. "Sir, do you really think we can stand against them?" Cain's eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "We have already stood Hayes. That is enough. They respect us now, even if they do not admit it. The next time, we will not just stand. We will meet them on our terms." Above the planet, the predator's ship continued its silent survey. The hunter replayed the encounter again and again, analyzing human behavior, mapping responses, cataloging strength not in muscle, but in spirit. Its clan's initial disbelief had shifted into grudging acknowledgement. There was something about humanity that demanded respect, that challenged everything the predator had known about prey and predator, hunter and hunted. Back on Earth, Cain's squad moved with quiet purpose, their resolve deepened by the knowledge that they had faced one of the galaxy's deadliest hunters and survived. Each man carried not just the scars of battle, but the certainty that courage and unity could defy even the most terrifying odds. Cain paused at the edge of the square where the first encounter had occurred, looking up to the sky. The faint hum of engines lingered in his mind, a reminder that the predator would return, but also that humanity's defiance had already left an impression. The alien, observing from orbit, reflected on the lessons learned. Humanity was not simply prey to be conquered. They were a species that fought with ingenuity, with leadership, with the unyielding determination to survive. The hunter's instincts, honed over countless hunts, now recognized them as potential equals, not yet in strength, but in spirit. And that was dangerous. Cain spoke to his men one final time before they moved on, his voice carrying over the ruins. Tonight proved something crucial. We are not just survivors. We are defiant. We are united. And one day, when the universe tests us again, they will find that humanity does not bend. Humanity does not break. Humanity endures. The squad nodded in solemn agreement, the weight of their shared experience forging a bond stronger than any weapon. Cain allowed himself a brief glance upward, where the predator's distant silhouette had disappeared into the clouds. The alien had recognized something in humanity, a spark that could not be extinguished, a fire that burned brighter than fear. Above, the predator's clan debated the implications of the hunt, the footage replaying endlessly in their memory cores. Some saw weakness, some saw threat, but the hunter insisted on the truth it had observed. Humans were resilient, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous in ways that could challenge the mightiest hunters. Cain and his squad had survived a first encounter, and in doing so, had earned a mark of respect, a rare acknowledgement from a species that did not hand out recognition lightly. And so the city, scarred and smoldering, stood in quiet anticipation. Humanity had survived the night, but both man and predator knew that this was only the beginning. A silent understanding had passed between them. They would meet again. And when that day came, it would not be prey against hunter, but warrior against warrior, spirit against spirit, each testing the other across the vastness of the galaxy. Cain exhaled slowly, letting the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, yet finding in it clarity rather than fear. "We're ready," he murmured, more to himself than to anyone else. "Whenever they come, we're ready." The predator, somewhere far above, recorded the moment, a quiet acknowledgement echoing in its memory banks. The humans had survived, and they had earned respect. For the first time, a hunter had paused, not from fear, but from recognition. The galaxy was full of prey, but humanity had proven itself different. And the fire of that defiance would not soon be forgotten.